Welcome to the 40-day challenge, day 39. I have my friend Kendra Pennington here.
Hi.
Hi, Kendra. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kendra before we get started. So she has a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife and Fishery Management. She's currently in a master's program of clinical mental health counseling and is in the process of obtaining her somatic experiencing certification with Dr. Peter Levine. Thank you. And she's also a 200-hour yoga instructor with a emphasis in 85 hours of prenatal yoga. Is that right?
That's right.
Excellent. So just to get started, so that's a wealth of information and kind of, like a well-rounded place to come from. An environment outside and environment inside. And so how did you come about this path that you're on?
Yeah, I really like the way you put that, by the way. Environment outside, environment inside. That's kind of how I feel like my path has been. Let's see. It started in a crisis center in Lubbock, in a dingy counseling room, and that's where it started. I definitely at that time in my life did not know the words sovereignty, autonomy, independence. Like, I had no idea what agency meant. I didn't know what any of this meant for myself. Like, when someone would say, "You love yourself, right? You have a lot of self-worth," I'd be like, "Yeah, man." And I had no idea what that meant until I had to go through the breaking down of what wasn't working for me, which was making life really hard for me, which is why I was in the counseling space.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what was going on, honestly. So That's how it started. It started right there.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you talk about that, because the other day when we were messaging back and forth, you said something about it doesn't end, or maybe it was an Instagram post, like the ego, like you breaking down the ego if you've done it once, you're gonna have to keep doing it. It's not like a one and done thing. And so it's definitely a process, right? And so how long ago was this?
Oh gosh, I was in Lubbock still, so I was like 25 years old. I'm 31, about to be 32, so that long ago. I'm really bad at math.
Like 6 or 7 years ago?
Awesome. Yeah, about 6 or 7 years ago. About that long ago, and honestly, I think like now, you, me, people like us, the Aquarian age, we're working on this we're not end result, but we're saying, okay, your goal is sovereignty, your goal is autonomy, your goal is connection, right? And back then, that long ago, I was picking up pieces. Like, I was like, okay, I need to go express myself in a safe space and just explode all of my energy out. But what else? And then it was all of these little bits and pieces, and now we have comprehensive, well-rounded plans. We're like, oh yeah, it's a whole body approach. It's mysticism, it's esoteric, it's Western, it's Eastern. And, now we're giving people what I needed back then. And that's that's my passion, is I'm like, okay, here it is. Let's do it.
So you talked about all of these parts, and to me, it's holistic living or holistic health. And the other day I was spelling holistic, and my friend Liz was like, "Alessia, that's not how you spell holistic." And I was like, "What? How is it not holistic?" Like the word whole. Like, why would you not do that? But anyways, that's my non-spelling dyslexic.
No, I saw the way you spelled it, and I thought, oh my God, that clever bitch. Just what I said. I was like, that is clever because it's true. It's true. It resonated. It vibrated throughout my body. That is true.
Yeah. So what does holistic living or healing mean for you?
Highway.
Right?
It means everything that I have just said. It's mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual. And when I say spiritual, I just mean higher power. Yeah. And living in this way is what gives you what your whole 40-day challenge is about. It gives you the resource, right, to turn on your prefrontal cortex in order to get rid of the programming, change the programming, the belief systems, the value systems that don't serve you anymore, which is down here in your limbic system and brainstem. And holistic living to me is asking why. Why am I here? What is my passion? What is my purpose? Like, that's holistic living to me, because you're going to be able to pick and choose, from that programming, from societal beliefs, from your karma, if you believe in that. I mean, I don't know who doesn't, who does, or your samskaras, past lives. Holistic living is kind of taking all of that and picking and choosing what's in alignment for your soul this time around. Like, what is my capital T, true north, and how can I go through life living that way, but also having connection? I think a lot of people think of sovereignty, autonomy, all of this stuff as being independent of others, having a wall. And really, it's flexibility. It's how flexible are my boundaries? How much am I letting in? What am I not allowing in? It's flexibility in, I care about myself. I'm worthy. I was born that way. I'm loving. But also, how can I show that to other people in the planet? So that's holistic living to me. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So it's like, I think we talked about this when I was starting Sovereignty State, and I was working with Liz, who she was in a previous video, and she was helping me build what this is currently, and it will continue to grow just like life does. But she was like, okay, Leslie, you've got to get specific. What is it that you're going to be working with? And I was like, well, that's kind of hard. How do you do holistic living and be specific? To me, that is specific. and so it was like narrowing down what I personally have the expertise in. And this is why I wanted to bring in other people, was because you have a different expertise than I do. Teja Ben has also expertise in astrology. Val has expertise in, Ayurvedic healing and sound healing. And then, so all of these people have different expertise. So I have knowledge that we can help. I'm a safety lady, and so we do cause mapping, root causes. So I can help you find the root cause, but if I'm not the person that can assist with correcting that root cause, I can filter to the people that do have those specialties, right? So talking about that holistic living, I know you talked about how it was very specific to each individual person, right? Like the mantra and chanting that I had earlier in this series, it was like, I had a question like, what am I just supposed to use? I am, because it sounded like the video meant like I'm just supposed to use I am. And the questions, like I was a child that when I went to Bible study, I was the one asking lots of questions. They called me 20 questions in like Bible camp. And it was like the curiosity, you have to get curious about what you need, because each individual is different. So that root cause analysis is going to be different for every person. So the chant or the mantra that you may need is going to be different than what I may need. And so how would you tell somebody to start to look and investigate that?
Investigating what you're saying, let me think. It's like investigating your true north. like investigating what resonates true for you. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, it's through felt sense. You're going to ask somebody what their true north is. That means that they're going to have to be able to feel into their body what feels constricting and what feels expansive. So what feels really high vibration and what feels like I'm dull, I'm coming in like this. So a person's going to have to be able to tune into that, because once they're able to tune into the way their heart is feeling, their lungs are feeling, their saliva in their mouth, the way their toes feel, their etheric body feels, right, which is the edges. The way when they're able to feel into that, they're gonna know. Like they're gonna be like, oh, this chant is for me, this chant is not. They're just gonna be able to feel it. I think and I think even if someone has a lot of trauma in their body, or people are not even aware of their body from here down, they're going to be able to think it. They're going to just know. Your body is going to tell you. So that's kind of difficult, because some people, of course, are really traumatized and they can't feel anything. So you could say, how would I tell somebody that? We would have to do a lot of work around healing that before you can ask someone to know what their true north is.
That's right.
Like, that's the challenging part, because this is not for the faint of heart. This 3D reality, us asking these questions, is not for someone who just thinks it's piece of cake, you know. But I think, though, that what you gain from this experience in life, your soul, like what it's asking you to do, you're gonna just have so much more like flavors. Your life is gonna be more delicious. You're going to be like, yeah, like now I know, now I feel good. So I don't know if I don't think I answered that.
No, you did. I feel like there were two big parts in that: feeling and then want to heal. So I was going to begin my training in Ayurvedic consultation, get my master's in that. But the problem that I saw with it was that I went and did a consultation. Like, I had the work done for me. I got this prescription. This is how you need to eat, when you need to eat it. You need to also do some fasting. You need to, and I was like, ew, no. You know, and I'm living this human existence of like wanting to feel and heal and be brighter as a human, right? And I still, even in that path, or on that path, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, and that was, you have to want to do it. And then all of a sudden, 7 or 8 years later, all of a sudden, it was like, hey, what is this intermittent fasting thing? And I started practicing, and I've been doing it since January, and it was like, oh, yeah, I feel better, you know? And then I was like, when did I first hear about this? Oh, that's right, Val told me in a consultation, Alessia, you should probably really do fasting. And I was like, no. And it turns out it's working for me, but then 8 years ago, it was not working for me. Like, I wasn't in it. I wasn't feeling it. It didn't resonate with me, even though it did. It was like, yeah, you should probably really do that, but I'm not doing that, you know?
Exactly. But our body knows that. And that's where like this neuroscience that I really love comes in, because like your soul knows that it's good for you, but there's something, you can call it whatever you want, but there's just layers you have to go through in order to get to that point. Because I like to think of it, Dr. Jordan Bill, she's a applied kinesiology and soft touch chiropractor. And she was like, you know, I could do all of this stuff to your body, but your body is going to reject it. And then you're going to have a headache, something, you're not going to feel good. So I'm going to do a little bit to your body. Your body will accept it. It's titration.
Yep.
Right? So maybe 7-8 years ago, you doing what was on that prescription for you would have put your body and, you know, think about your brain stem, your brain, the way you're functioning in life. It might have put it in complete shock.
Yeah.
And so that's why your body was like, no, I don't want that right now.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of like my partner, my love, he's sober and in recovery. And he, he's helped me become more sober. I'm not totally sober yet, but in readings, my astrology readings, every time they're like, Alessi, no alcohol, no smoking, no drugs, you've got to do this for your soul's path. So that's one of those holistic tools that you can use, is that astrology chart that will give you like your paths, right? And every time I'm told, I'm like, I'm not there yet, but him coming into my life has allowed that path to open up, and I'm much more graceful in that path because I'm walking with a partner. And then that goes into the whole astrology thing, but it's just, so it's not perfection. I keep saying through this whole 40-day thing, it's not about like being perfect. It's like before we started this video, we were talking about like, yeah, even though we're on this path, we still have the human struggle of everyday life. Like you still get lit up by things, you still get pissed off, you still, you still live in the emotions of everyday life.
Absolutely. That's why our soul's here. Like our soul chose this for a reason. I really love everything that you just said. But what was really coming into my mind was empowerment through resource. Because, okay, so working through all of this stuff, doing all this stuff really lights your lower brain on fire. And unless you have resource, which is this, think of this as compassion up here in this part of your brain, like all of your 40-day program is allowing people to pick and choose what resources they can use in order to get through these challenges. Because shifting programming and belief, being able to be in a partnership and relationship that's healthy, relationally healthy, growing, means that you're going to have to take your brain system and your limbic system, and you're going to have to just like rip off layers and be like, this isn't serving me, this isn't serving me, and your lid is going to flip. This is Dan Siegel's hand model. Your prefrontal cortex is going to come on and offline.
Yeah.
And with what you're doing with all of these resources, it's empowering you to pick and to choose your life, but also to be okay when those emotions come, to be okay when life has its sucks, like what we were talking about with like Brene Brown, like to not be, and to be okay with progress over perfection. Because progress is how we're healing. Progress is how we're getting through life. I have a necklace I wear all the time that reminds me of that. I have to have that because I am that person who's like, meh, I get
it's all about perfection and holding on to it. And I mean,
society,
yes, society forces you. It's like living in this body that in the yogic practice I chose to be in, like, and finding my comfort level in this human experience. It's like you're bombarded with society and what it tells you that you should be. And so which I haven't talked about a lot in the 40-day challenge, but what are some of those things that you can do to turn off that society?
I want to think of it not as turning off, but as a filtering, more of like a psychological boundary of like, there's this great imagery you can do if you just close your eyes, and I'm not saying do it right now, but you can close your eyes, think of something that you could put around you that would be a veil almost between you and the outside world, to where you feel completely safe, calm, and alignment, and you're allowing things to just sit outside of this boundary. And then whenever when you see it, when you hear it, you're able to say, is this about me? Is it not? If it is it true? Capital T, true. And then you can let it in. So you can do that with anything. You can do that with society. You can stop and say, like, who, what, where, why, and then think, is this capital T true for me? Is it not? And let it in that way. But honestly, I think it's important to see it and to be aware of it instead of just like kind of ignoring it. But then also with that, you get into being aware of systemic stuff, racism, prejudice, body shaming, like corporations that are profiting off of you being this like I would like to say, what would I call it? Obedient? You allowing them, you know, and so whenever you do that, that's when you're able to inflict change because you're able to see it and do something else about it. So again, though, it comes back to asking questions. It comes back to reading labels. It comes back to questioning everything and being like, to me, that's how I deal with society. And that's how I deal with things because I want to be like, I'm here to be joyous and happy and be in the flow. And I'm so tired of trying to control everything. So like, it just doesn't work for me. So,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just had this conversation with my brother and his wife the other day at dinner. He's like, I'm 30. How old is he? 30. You know, they just adopted a baby. I don't have a 6-figure income. Like, you know, all this stuff, you know, I'm not this, I'm not that. And I'm like, that's not your path, yo. Like, that's okay, you know? And I see him, I'm telling him this, but yet I too am feeling I'm 31. I'm living in a rent house. I don't have like a full-time, you know, career already, you know, I'm not, you know, so.
Yeah. Totally. I'm 36 and I live with my mom. So it's like,
you know, exactly. And so we're teaching this stuff, but yet I sit there though, and there's a difference between so me doing that, I didn't come into a shame pit, right? I didn't turn this off and turn this on. I didn't go into this shame pit, this judgment. Oh, look at this, look at that. I started thinking, no, hell no. I'm part of God. I'm worthy. I was born complete. This is my, you know, this is my path. And I just started like all this like resourcing and I was like, yeah. And so that's how I have people, that's what I would tell people is you just have to build up your resource and start questioning stuff and be okay with pushback. Because when you start questioning stuff, people are going to push back because you're questioning their life. You're questioning what they, like who they are. You know, you're questioning that. And
I think with this whole 40-day thing, one of my big hesitations was that very thing, you know, that pushback. And so that's why it was so important for me to be like, this isn't about perfection. This isn't that you have to take all of these things. It's not that you have to do 40 days of each one. It's not like, I wanted to be like, whatever feels good for you. But what I realized is that we don't even feel anymore. Like we're so desensitized to the world because of the different things that we see on television or on our cell phones, and we're constantly bombarded by technology and information. And so it's like our little bodies that are extremely powerful have been like bombarded deep and against, you know, that what do you call it, the
etheric body.
Yes, the etheric body, that it's now like the etheric body no longer exists outside of the body. It's like squished and contained within the body. And it's fear. And that was why I was like, okay, Alessia, you can't let fear overcome why you're not going to do the 40-day challenge. Because if you're experiencing the fear, who has all of these resources, imagine the humans that are out there that don't have the resources that God has provided in your path. Like, imagine how they're feeling. And so as teachers, this is what we're here for, is to like expand our knowledge to other people. So that way that fear level comes down. So I love that you're like brainy and like into this chemical electricity that's happening in the brain. So what happens when people go into fear, like fear response in their body?
So in the hand model, this is your brainstem, this is your limbic system. So you're going to go into, these are going to be activated, and you're going to go into fight, flight, or freeze. What's going to happen is it's going to flip your lid, which means this comes offline. Your prefrontal cortex comes offline. And this is what's helping you be in survival. So if you're living in fear, you're living in survival mode only. meaning that all of the resources that you might have had, all of that stuff goes out the window. Your body wants to survive. So if you can Google fight, flight, freeze, and you can look at what's happening in your body. So what's actually happening though is you're creating disease in the body, dis-ease. Your body is completely out of ease because you're dumping a lot of chemicals and hormones, cortisol mostly, like adrenal and stuff, into this part of your brain, meaning that your adrenal glands are going to be over functioning if you're living in this way for a long period of time. This is only for like if you're trying to get away from somebody, if you're trying to fight somebody, or like survive. But if people are living in fear, meaning they're living in this way, then their body is living in that way. There is no expansion from that though. There's no getting nutrients from that because your body isn't thinking, how can I thrive? How can I grow? Your body's like, how can I survive? So you can be taking all the supplements, you can be doing all the yoga, you can be working out, you can be eating really well. But if your body is, your mind and your emotion and your feeling is in fear, then your brain does not know the difference because this part does not speak English. This part speaks
animal.
Yeah, animal. It's primal. But this is emotion right here. So this part speaks emotion and imagery, and this part speaks in sensation and movement, right? So how can we turn these parts back on is by doing Kundalini, by doing yoga, by doing that kind of stuff. But if you think about it, reversing it though, this part is what's happening. Like this, that's what's going on in your body. So, yeah, you're not going to be absorbing nutrients. Your body's going to be out of ease. You're going to start getting anxiety, depression, hypertension, gastrointestinal issues. And then it doesn't help that you're being force-fed bullshit by the media and through your screen too. And so it's it's like, just like you said, you did this earlier, and that's exactly the way our body is. And then we just keep bombarding it, right? Whenever we're not asking questions, when we're not really paying attention to who we're around, what we're allowing inside of our ears and our mind, when we're not paying attention to what we're putting in our mouth, when we're not paying attention to what we're putting on our body, like we're just being bombarded by toxins. If you think of it, it's just all toxic. And so, yeah.
I think that's why holistic, the path that we're on, is so important, not just for our souls, right? But for being teachers and sharing the knowledge that we have to other people out there. I think it's really important. So let's see. Okay, so I wrote down expansion, layers, fear, brain. Okay, so the somatic experience training that you're going through. A lot of that has been about what you've been talking about. Is that right?
It is. A lot of it is. A lot of it was somatic, and a lot of it is just neuroscience.
Right. So when you talked about the PTSD, I'm trained in iRest, and I don't know if you have heard of iRest, but it's like everybody lays down in a comfortable position, and then I'll read a script to you, and it goes through the body, through sections, and it allows you to feel what you're feeling. But prior to doing that, you go through an inner resource. So remember how you talked about that space around you where you feel comfortable and good. So I really love iRest in that way because it's teaching us to feel again. And to get out of that fear, I think we have to breathe and we have to feel. And both of those things combined will then help you go deeper. But first, it's recognizing that you have a breath, because we do it all the time, right? And it's something that just happens. And so recognizing how you're breathing and then where you're feeling at in those breaths, I think is very important. Absolutely. So do you have any final thoughts for holistic living in general?
Just what you just said though, it's just good for everyone to know when they're watching this that is the turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. which is turning on the compassionate part of your brain. And everything that you just said is part of what's in science right now. It might only be 15, 20 years old that's been published, but I just want everyone to know that it's all being scientifically proven.
Yay.
And it's really, really beautiful to hear you talk about it. Yes. So, you know, I guess the ending, but I think humanity can be changed by becoming a sovereign being, by becoming autonomous, by being an individual. I think humanity can be changed because you're changing yourself. You're becoming more loving, you feel more worthy, you're coming back to your soul, you're coming back to knowing I'm whole, worthy, and complete as I am, as I was born. And through that comes compassion, empathy, and love, which is higher vibration. The more masculine would be the empowerment, the sovereignty, the independence, the agency, all that. But when we're in these high vibrational energies and we're connecting to ourselves, to the world around us, I think that changes humanity. It's like a ripple effect. So holistic living to me is the Aquarian age. It's you're able to change everything that you don't like about the world. You're going to be able to change it, but it starts here, and it's challenging. But that's why people like us exist. That's why the 40-day program you're doing exists. So we're all here for each other.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I mean, the other day I was listening to Spotify and Highway Women came on. Have you heard them?
No.
It's like a group of women, and they're singers, and I think they live in Tennessee. And I posted it on Facebook. It's like a full table, like they wanted a full table. And anyhow, they talk about this very thing in some of their songs. And so it's like, it's fascinating seeing and hearing it come from different modalities than just this yoga, because I think that's why I love having you here, because for me, the way that I talk about things is really etheric and very out there. Sometimes I was called in the clouds for a lot of my youth, and so it's really out there and it's hard to grasp, right? And so I love that you're able to bring it back and give the science, because not always am I really like fiery with the science of it, but I'm like, I can tell you how to feel it. And I can't tell
yeah.
So,
well, and that's what it comes down to, and that's why I started on the path I'm on, because I was in the yoga scene, and I was using all these words that people didn't really resonate with because it scared them, because they didn't understand it. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just do this science bit, and then I can put them together, because I know in my heart that holistic health is both of these together. And I'm so happy. You know what though? Even if your heads are in, I think it's a Taoist saying or a Buddhist saying, I can't remember, but head in the clouds, feet on the ground, like having both of that. I probably said it incorrectly, but that's important. And so people like you need to exist. You know? You're doing this. It's great.
Yes,
I appreciate having me on. I do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Kendra, where can people find you and ask questions or just watch you talk about this?
You can go to my website. All the links are on my website. It's kpholisticselfhealing.com.
Perfect. And I'll post that on the link below so that way people can connect. And then it'll be also, so we're going to do the short version on YouTube, and then we'll do the longer version on my website, sovereigntystate.com, and then we can connect those together.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
The world and the universe has brought us together in crazy ways, and I love that it has.
it has. It has. We were talking about that. It has.
Yeah. Like,
okay.
You're a lifeguard, and you're like, yeah. Did you teach? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I was like, it literally, like, part of my first job was being at OC. Like, that was, and I was, yeah, it's so crazy. I never thought I'd ever, and then you showing up of Kundalini instructor, and I was like, heck yeah. Like,
yeah, it was like, do we know each other? Yeah, from a different life.
That is it right there, from a different life. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's
well,
awesome,
thank
though.
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
Namaste.
Bye. Namaste.